It's time to meet your astrologer, Joyce Nunn, as she presents her stimulating approach to the oldest science in the world.
Hi. I appreciate your joining us today. We're going to have a lot of fun with astrology. And then I'm going to tell you what's wrong with your sign. For everybody else, that is, because you and I are okay, and we know that. Now, the astrology books say that Aries are strong-willed and natural leaders, which is a nice way of saying they're pig-headed and bossy. They only see one way to do anything. That's their way. They rarely listen. They never take advice. They love to start things. They're never around to finish them. They're usually starting something else, like an argument. They have nasty tempers, and right off the top of their head, they say things that everyone else is supposed to forget as soon as they're finished blowing off steam. They're great to be around if you can stand the strain. Taurus, you all live in a rut, and you'll do anything to stay with it. You have a one-track mind, and there is really no point in bothering you with logic, because that just confuses you. Tauruses can't stand extravagance, like spending more than $2.98 on a Christmas present, and they abhor waste. One nice thing, you can feed them leftovers all week long. They think they're in competition with the garbage disposal. They can drive you crazy turning off light switches and using pliers to get the last drop of toothpaste out of the tube. Now, if you're around a Gemini who isn't talking, it's usually a good idea to take their pulse because they're either dead or unconscious. Geminis read the last page of a novel first, and they can't concentrate on anything for more than 5 minutes. They religiously avoid commitments, responsibility, or anything that involves self-discipline. If you marry a Gemini, you don't need children because you've already got one. They're deeply moved by greeting cards, lassie movies, China kittens, but they're not that crazy about people. Cancers are very emotional, and if you're going to be around one for long, make sure there's a box of Kleenex handy. They cry over traumatic things, like untied shoelaces or smudged nail polish. Cancers all spend a lot of time grocery shopping. That way, they know when there's a food shortage. You probably always wondered who cleaned out those shelves before you got there. They also have closets full of clothes that they think will come back in style someday. The Salvation Army would go broke if it had to rely on cancers. Now, not all Leos are pushy, overbearing, and snobbish. Some of them just walk out if you ignore them. After all, they spend a lot of time and money trying to impress you, and the least you could do is pay attention. You know, if you don't come up with the compliments fast enough, don't worry, because they'll always manage to find something to brag about. The problem is there's not enough scope for Leos anymore. They can become very ill-tempered if they're not allowed to lead an army or rule the world. Some of them just settle for dominating their families or bullying the Little League on weekends. Virgos are happiest when they have something to gripe about. Inefficiency drives them up the wall. They'll do most of your work for you just to make sure it's done right. They really have no use for people who mess up the files. They love doing things with their hands, like picking the lint off your coat while you're talking to them. And they're always telling people things for their own good. Virgos like to be nurses or teachers or prison wardens, where they can point out to the helpless and unfortunate how helpless and unfortunate they are. Libras function best at cocktail parties, where they can engage in innocuous small talk with a bunch of strangers. They're constantly bored, but they know how to smile and nod in the right places. At home, they're lazy and self-indulgent and always yelling at everyone that they need peace and quiet. They ignore problems, refuse to make decisions, and collapse promptly under pressure. When they're not happy and elated, they lapse into silent gloom, waiting for someone to come along and make them happy again. Scorpios are devout masochists. They go through life punishing themselves and everyone else. They'll stop speaking to you for forgetting to empty the garbage. They want you to think they're mysterious. Actually, they never learned how to communicate. They won't tell you anything, including what time it is. Now, they do have marvelous concentration. If you're watching TV next to a Scorpio, you could drop dead and he wouldn't even know it till the commercial. Your average Sagittarian is a paranoid schizophrenic. He wants total freedom but hunts under the bed for his wife's lovers. It was the Sagittarian who invented the chastity belt. They all have big mouths in order to accommodate their feet. They religiously avoid thinking before they speak. Most Sagittarians are used car dealers and blackjack dealers. They also get picked up a lot for speeding. They're totally irresponsible and should be kept on a leash. Capricorns are serious, hardworking, and dull. They can put a damper on the greatest party in the world. They insist upon everything being useful, including people around them. A lot of Capricorns have friends they haven't even used yet. They come across pretty chilly sometimes because they think the only thing you're supposed to do with feelings is control them. They do make good husbands because they're unable to see a bill no matter whose without paying for it. Capricorns should avoid standing still too long, too. They tend to take roots and become trees. Aquarians work very hard at being interesting and unpredictable. Actually, they're so whacked out, it's a wonder they get through the day. They all have Pygmalion complexes and are out to reform the world and everybody in it. They need a cause. They knock themselves out for orphans, refugees, and total strangers and completely ignore their own families. A lot of them are geniuses. Statistics show there are more Aquarians in the Hall of Fame than any other sign. There are also more in insane asylums. Pisces are frightfully sensitive. They'd walk a mile to get their feelings hurt. They're convinced that nobody understands them, and they're probably right. You never know what they're thinking, much less what they're doing, because they lie a lot. They can't handle reality. They keep searching for that pot at the end of the rainbow, even though they misplaced the map years ago. They spend a lot of time losing things, getting mugged, and wondering what happened with all the money. Now, I guess we've about wrapped up Aunt Clara and your next-door neighbor and your ex-husband.
This program has been presented for your information and entertainment. The remarks expressed are personal and may not reflect the views of this station. Astrology is the key to your own universe. Think about it.